All right, looks like we're live. All right, so this is Aaron, the ever professional metal theologian, trying to get used to headphones I don't normally wear. And I'm here for the very first time with a very special guest. This is not someone like from the normal like vinyl community. Here we come. This is an honored guest who mostly makes videos about politics himself, which may or may not be to the taste of the audience. I don't care right now because we're here to talk about music, because this guy knows his shit. And not only knows his shit, but knows his shit about punk rock, which means there's a lot to talk about. And I want to just see where the conversation goes. But welcome, Lil Bill.
Thank you for having me on. And I will say that for your audience, I am in the process of I even said this in one of my and I forget which video it was, but I am consciously moving away from explicitly political content because I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience to deal with it no more. So y'all don't have nothing to worry about. I'm not going to, preach to y'all tonight.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, watching the thing, though, I kind of figured other people probably want to have you on to talk about politics. I don't know if anyone else is calling to have you talk about the music. So,
yeah, no, not yet. This is a welcome refrain from that.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. All right, man. So what was the first record you ever bought?
First record that I ever bought with my own money.
Whatever makes a more interesting story. If it was someone else's money, but it's a better story, that's fine too. But yeah, probably with your money.
All right, so the first record that I ever actually bought, it might well, you know what? All right, so the first record that I obtained, I won't say how, but the first record that I obtained was Jay-Z's Black Album. And the first record that I ever bought was College Dropout.
Really?
Kanye West, yep. The first album I ever bought with my own money.
That's awesome. Yeah, my very first one was Men at Work, Business as Usual, when I was like 10 years old. I might have been 11 already, but
okay, that's an oldie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Actually, at the time when it came out, Cargo had already come out, and I like thought about this because I was like, man, I don't know, maybe I should get the new one. But I was like, no, I want to get the one with Who Can It Be Now on it. So, and that was like the level of sophistication that I brought to my musical meditations when I was 10.
Yeah, we pretty much all been there. Yep, that's pretty much what I did.
All right.
All you need to do was show me the music video. If the music video looked all right, and I say, "Yep, let me get that."
Dude, I was such a sucker for that shit. It's funny watching those videos now, how cheesy some of them look.
Yeah.
Like, you remember the video for Pressure by Billy Joel? That was like the greatest thing ever. I was like, oh my God. Like, he was like falling sideways into like a mirror with water and shit. I was like,
oh. Well, I remember what was it? I remember when the video for Jesus Walks came out, and they made like such a big deal about it. Like it was like, I wasn't around yet back then, but based on stories that I've heard, the only thing that I could equate it to is like when Remember the Time came out. And it was supposed to be like this big like production and whatever and whatnot. So I'm not gonna lie, I do miss those days, man. I really do. I miss just sitting in front of the TV on Saturday, all day VH1 early in the morning. That's how I got introduced to a lot of different genres of music that I wasn't accustomed to, was just sitting there and just watching music videos. So yeah, I do kind of miss that a little bit. That and the TV Guide channel.
That's funny. Well, what's something you found out that you don't think you would have found otherwise, that you found through the music channel?
I would not have found Queens of the Stone Age. I would not. That whole sort of sludge rock, stoner rock kind of vibe that was going on. What was maybe like early mid 2000s,
Yeah.
I would have never found that. I would have never found. Okay, so I would have never found Queens of the Stone Age. I would have never found Franz Ferdinand. I would have never found Modest Mouse. What's another one? But yeah, definitely those bands. What's the name of the band? I think they were Australian. They did the I Believe in a Thing Called Love, and it looked like the video looked like bit of the Lost.
Shit, I don't know, man.
What's their name? But
I'm kind of
I would
bad
have
with
never
the names.
found that song either. But like it was because you ain't had no choice. You just sat there, and then whatever came on is what came on. So
Right on. All right, so I got something to show you here. This is if I can find it. This is my copy of Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death. And the
I
original
like
came,
that. I like that.
This came with a flexi. This is the part I want to show you because this is my homemade cover. Because the flexi was just like sort of stuck inside the thing, and I was like, I don't want it to get all fucked up. So I took like a different sleeve from a band I didn't give a shit about and turned it inside out. And that was like my homemade little cover for the fucking Dead Kennedys flexi.
That is if I ever did start collecting vinyl, that'll probably be one of the first ones. That album along with Bad Brains' first album and Eye Against Eye for that matter is what really sold me on hardcore. Because again, like I say in the video, I was always under the impression that that's white boy music. Now we don't listen to that over here, whatever. But hearing them, also hearing My War for the first time.
Oh hell yeah, man!
A Black Flag, and I said, all right, this is I can get down with this. It's loud. Angry, yep, there you go. Loud, angry, just yep. I'm right at home here,
dude. Black Flag is one of the bands that got me through high school, no question.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, so tell me about getting into the Dead Kennedys though. Like, what was sort of the impetus? Is there a story there? Because that was like your band that like got you started into the punk shit, right?
Yeah, that Dead Kennedys was Dead Kennedys, and I'm not gonna lie, Sex Pistols as well.
I love the Sex Pistols too, man.
I mean, they're good for what they are, man. You know what I mean.
You're just done with them,
right? But it was all right. So all right. So I'll tell the whole story then.
Right.
So the Nintendo Wii had came out, and so I had stood outside in line in the rain when it was released, and I had enough money to get the system itself, but I ain't have no money for games. So the only thing that I had was the little the Wii Sports that come with it.
Yeah.
And then for Christmas, my mom and my sister, they had got I don't even know why they did, but they got Guitar Hero World Tour. And I guess because it's supposed to be a family game, everybody pick up an instrument. And that's how that was matter of fact, that game introduced me to a lot of stuff, but that was the first time that I heard Holiday in Cambodia was on Guitar Hero World Tour, and it's pretty much been a done deal since then. I heard that track and I said, what is this? This just sounds like heaven, pretty much. And then it just became a rabbit hole from there. I discovered the album. I just started listening to more and more bands, because I'm the type of person that, you know, when I find somebody I like, then I want to find out, you know, who their influences were.
Totally.
So like, for instance, when I found out that you know, Jack White was really big in the Delta blues and all that kinds of stuff, that's how I got into Son House and
Oh, right on.
Willie McTell and you know, all of those ones. So once I, you know, found out about the Dead Kennedys, then that's when I started, you know, getting into bands. Like, that's when I started getting into stuff like the Dead Boys,
Right on. From
the
Cleveland.
Germs, Circle Jerks, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was pretty much a wrap from that point moving on. That was basically my thing, man. Was anything that was hardcore or hardcore adjacent, and anything that just had that aggressive bent to it, was like, all right, this is my comfort zone.
So do you get into any of the weirder shit too, like the Residents or Suicide or any of those more sort of like wonky bands, or do you stick with like the straighter hardcore stuff?
No, I mean, it all depends. Like, like I will say that when it comes to punk, I kind of have like this sound that I'm like, yeah, this is it right here. But I won't get too deep into now. I will say, now when it comes to metal, I will do more more experimental stuff. Like, um my probably my favorite, yeah, no, definitely my favorite metal band is Tool. So
Right on.
I so when it comes to metal, I will, you know, so like Tool, Mastodon is another one, like that real, and I guess that kind of goes back, well, Mastodon, at least I guess that kind of goes back to that whole, you know, sludge rock feel, that whole, you know, just real droning kind of.
Yeah, I hear you though. They've always sounded more prog than that to me too. I
Yeah,
think you're right.
yeah. So I think that, that might be it, because for, I never really got too deep into them, but
Yeah.
I was into I was into Rush for a little bit. I was into in the Jethro Tull for a little bit. Matter of fact, yep. I was into that for. I mean, I never really got too deep into it, but definitely Tool. Anytime Tool releases something, I'm right there. So in terms of metal, it's either that sound, or, you know, like really early, like Black Sabbath kind of stuff. Even like, I mean, it ain't. It ain't metal, but like Hendrix, when he was doing his Electric Ladyland thing, that real, you know, sort of riff heavy sound that he had going, like I'll get with that. I think that's what made me get really into stuff like the Stooges and MC5, because it was like really riff heavy, really, you know, almost primal sounding, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
totally.
really stripped down, sort of no frills, no strings attached going on. Um
Well, that
and I
sax
guess
on
that's kind
Funhouse
of,
might be a frill.
yeah, well, yeah. but like their first album, you know what I mean, or like Raw Power, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like that kind of sound. Um and I guess maybe that's what really attracted me to punk, is that whole stripped down DIY aesthetic that goes with that. It's just, this is what it is, you know. We're gonna play our instruments for about 90 seconds and call it a wrap. So
Yeah. Yeah, the that makes me think of the Ramones right away too. But they're sort of like the Sex Pistols for me, where it's like I really like them,
Yeah,
but I kind of got tired of them. Although something, I never appreciated the Ramones as much as I ought to have, because I think it's because I discovered the Misfits first. Because when I got into the
yeah,
Misfits, that was the shit. That was because some
yeah,
these records were so there was that they sounded cool, right? But then they look like like this.
yeah.
And like back in the day, this was all I had. So like I would make up my own stories about this shit, because I didn't know anything about the
Right.
band or anything like that at all. So by the time I found the Ramones, it was like, well, this is really cool, but like
Hmm.
it's a lot like the Misfits, and I kind of like the whole like horror movie thing more than the whole
Yeah,
like Sheena as a punk rocker thing and
yeah,
Rockaway Beach stuff. So, you know,
yeah. I kind of, I'm not gonna lie. I was never too big into the I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know. Maybe it's because the Ramones are just so like everybody knows the Ramones.
yeah,
Everybody, even it's like I don't know. It's like Michael Jackson. Even if you've never heard a Michael Jackson record, I mean, I don't know how you haven't. Or matter of fact, yep, just like that. You cannot get through life without hearing a Ramones record.
yeah,
you're gonna see a commercial or you're gonna watch a movie and something, or if not, you're gonna hear the Spider-Man theme song at
right.
some point. You're gonna hear the Ramones at some point in life. So I think maybe that's kind of why I was never, too like I was like, yeah, this is cool, but it ain't the Dead Kennedys,
Exactly. Because East Bay Ray had that weird sound, that like really high
Yeah,
pitched guitar thing that no one else really did. Greg Ginn had a
yeah.
really distinctive sound too, but man, Dead Kennedys, I kind of think it's underrated even from that standpoint.
I agree 100%. I feel like uh DKs need to be up there. And I mean you can make the same argument for I'll say the Adolescents is another band
I never
that
listened to
doesn't
that
get.
much.
Yeah, you don't really hear that much about them. I feel like, but definitely Dead Kennedys I feel like need to be in a tier because they don't even really get. And I don't, maybe it's because Bad Brains is so eclectic that especially by the time they got to that third album, it was like, all right, this is something, you know this ain't anything like the first album. We going
Mhm.
in a whole nother direction. So maybe that's why. But I don't even feel like the DKs get the same kind of flowers that Bad Brains gets, and I don't really understand why. I mean, considering that, I mean that's as hardcore as it's going to get. I mean, thematic wise and musically, that's as punk as it's going to get right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a band I never saw live, but I've seen that video from like '84 or something like that. I think they were touring on Frankenchrist
Hmm. I
with the
yeah,
stage
I've
diving there.
seen
Yeah.
I've seen a few of the I there's a bunch of bands that I wish I had to seen. Well, there's a bunch of artists period that I wish I had to seen live, but yeah, I wish I had seen those guys. I wish I had seen Bad Brains live. Um, so yeah, it's a bunch of them.
Well, that's kind of a good question. Who's someone you have seen that was interesting?
Um,
Maybe someone unusual.
Nope, nobody famous. Nobody. I've seen. No, you know what? I have seen. I have seen Bouncing Souls live. I
I
have.
don't even know
I
them.
have. I had to. So you see, I have seen them live. But yeah, I never really got to see anybody not any punk artists I've really gotten to see live. Not anybody that's like still making music
Mhm.
that would be noteworthy enough to mention. It was always like local bands or college bands or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess I've never had the luck.
Hmm. Yeah, there's some bands that I've never seen where you'd think I would have. Like, I've never seen Metallica and I've never seen Slayer,
Mhm.
right? But I did see Killing Joke.
Okay.
And Jazz
Okay.
Coleman was
Yeah.
intimidating on stage, man. Like with the face paint and that shit and the weird
Yeah.
lights, and just I was like, God damn, I don't want to
Right.
get too close.
Another also because I'm not a big fan of huge concerts, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
same
more
here.
like I much prefer like a more intimate setting. I tried to see I mean this ain't punk, but I tried to see Gary Clark Jr.
Mhm.
before he started getting like really started to this was before he had made the Black and Blue album.
Okay.
I tried to see him and I never got a chance to do it. And now he's doing arenas and stuff. So yeah, that I'm not a real big fan of that kind of setting. It's just it's too many people for me.
I don't, I don't mind the people. I mind the fact that it's kind of lame. Like generally speaking, I won't go to a
Mhm.
show if there are seats.
Yeah.
If it's the orchestra, fine. But if it's like a rock show and there's seating, like seating assignments, I'm kind of out.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like, what the hell?
I never got well just the concert period. Even hip hop concerts.
Yeah.
I never got that. I never like what is you doing? We I have been to shows where it was like I don't even know what to call it because it's not house music. House music has a beat to it, but everybody just standing around, just kind of swaying and just whatever. Matter of fact, I remember when I was in college, we had a concert, and I forget everybody that was there, but Lupe Fiasco was there, and everybody was just standing around, and the people that I was like, "What is y'all doing? It's a show. Why y'all just standing and looking? This is weird." Like, yeah, I never understood that.
That's right. Like my excuse these days that I'm old and I'm staff kids, so I'm allowed to
Right,
stand around and I just have to frown too.
right. Yeah, that's my excuse now too. Is that those days are behind me.
Yeah. But I'll still go to the shows, man. I'm not afraid. Hey, so you were talking about the Stooges. Did you ever get into the Velvet Underground?
A little bit in the Velvet Underground, in the Television, Patti Smith a little bit.
Yeah.
I did get into a little bit of those early kind of experimental, I guess if you want to call it proto punk. I did get into them a little bit. Television especially, I really enjoyed it. I still play the Marquee Moon album
Yeah.
pretty frequently. Who else? The Stooges definitely, yeah. Raw Power is one of my favorite albums, period. MC5's live album is one of my favorites.
Right on.
I obviously Death. I play that record at least once a week. I play that thing to completion.
Dude, when I first got that thing, I played it every day. And then like I'd go to
I,
work and I'd listen to it online
yeah,
again. Totally.
most definitely. When the doc, I discovered them through the matter. I think I said this in the video that I discovered them through the documentary. And as soon as I saw the documentary, I said, "All right, let me go find this album." And I played that thing every day for for months. For months, every day, multiple times, because I was just that is exactly what I want from a band. Just raw energy,
Yeah.
just no frills, just straight up, just guitar into amplifier. That's it.
But the
And the
songs are
death.
good too, man. They have some good hooks
Yeah,
on that thing. Like it draw
they
they don't
really did.
sacrifice the heaviness, but they draw you in. They don't because one thing
Right.
about a lot of the hardcore stuff is a lot of it was kind of monotonous to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I like
Mhm.
GBH, but they all
Yeah.
all the shit kind of sounds the same. It's like if you have
Yeah.
one or I have five, it's kind of the same end result. And Death had
Mhm.
better hooks, I think, man.
They did, and they had another thing that lacks with hardcore a lot of times is that it lacks melody. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's just, you know, power chords or riffs, and just, there's no, so that's something that Death had gone for them, is that they were legit musicians. You know what I mean? They knew what they were doing. That, I think that really, and I think that's what makes Bad Brains so Bad Brains, Fishbone, I mean, we can
Yeah.
go on and on and on, is that they actually knew what they were doing when they
Yeah.
were playing. Like, they could actually sit down and write songs and write riffs and write hooks, and it wasn't just, all right, you know, we just gonna pound something out and hopefully it sounds good. It wasn't just energy. Like, the energy was there, but it was also it was musicianship. And that's why you know, I bands like that were able to evolve, you know what I mean? Where, you know,
Yeah.
you got a lot of other bands, you know, like you said, it sounds like they're just playing the same song over and over and over again. Um and so yeah, I say that to say I know exactly what you mean when you say that.
So I think as far as the Velvet Underground goes, though, I think that Funkadelic was listening to him. I want to say George Clinton, but I want to
Mhm.
give him all the credit. But like, you listen to those first few Funkadelic records, man, I hear the
Mhm.
Velvet's in there. That's part of why I
I
think those
believe
records are so great.
I believe he was. I believe you. And the thing about Funkadelic. Well, the thing about funk, period, is the same. The thing about funk is that, and this is why I think, you know, it melds so well, and it melds so well with that sound, because, you know, again, going back to um just that real riff heavy sound,
Hmm.
you know, funk is all about a groove.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You could play the same note over and over and over and over again, but but you play it in a way that there's a groove to it, there's a bop to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's something that, you know, you just find yourself, you know, you just tapping your foot or you just nodding your head to it. So it's not, it doesn't have to be, you know, a 5 minute long, I mean, there's a place for that, but it doesn't have to be, you know, a 5 minute long guitar solo or a 5 minute long drum solo for musicianship. Sometimes it's just the simplest, you know, 3 note riff or whatever. And George Clinton, that Funkadelic, Sly and the Family Stone, though, that's the kind of stuff I grew up with. So I was already, that's the kind of stuff that I would hear playing in the car when I was a kid. So yeah, all that stuff is right there. And so I don't know. Maybe that might be why it was so. That might be part of the reason why it was so easy for me to make that transition. Because again, that's the kind of stuff I grew up listening to. James Brown,
Yeah.
uh, early Prince. Well, Prince period, but early Prince was real heavy in the funk.
Hmm.
Rick James.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that kind of stuff I was basically raised on that. So yeah, to come back to the original point, yeah, I most definitely think that George Clinton in Parliament, that they were listening to some Velvet Underground, because you can hear it all in there.
Yeah. Not to like play down the drugs too much or anything. I'm not going to deny
Right.
the obvious here.
Right. Yeah, that we can't deny that, because
Yeah, dude, I wish my parents had listened to that kind of shit, though. The coolest thing either of my parents had was a Doors record. My
uh-huh.
dad really liked like Harry Belafonte, which is
Oh
cool,
yeah.
but you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, Harry was cool for what he was. but yeah, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I grew up in a house that was um I again go back to that word eclectic. Um and it's funny because my mom being as religious as she was, a lot of it was gospel, well, almost exclusively gospel. If it wasn't gospel, it was um well, I mean, it was mostly gospel, but she had some R&B playing occasionally. But that's how I learned to appreciate. And this is something that I even say to this day, is that all of the best musicians are either in or grew up in church. It's just you can I don't know what it is, but just anybody that I could think of, especially when it comes to singers, just
Yeah.
pure unadulterated talent. You think about Aretha, you think about Whitney Houston, you think about
I think about
all of
John
those ones.
Coltrane. I think about Albert Eiler.
Hmm. Yeah, all of them. So I don't really know what it is about that, but um but yeah, man. But I say that to say, in my mom's house, it was a lot of that, and then on my dad's side, it was pretty much everything else. Um, my grandmother and my grandfather was really big into doo wop music,
Right on.
into the doo wop, the you know the male singing groups, you know, the 4-part harmonies and all that kind of stuff. He was really big into that. My grandma, um she was big into her gospel as well. My aunts and stuff, they had me listening to stuff like they had me listening to Luther Vandross. They had me listening to Anita Baker. They have I love Anita. That's how I
Mhm.
fell in love with her, was through that. They had me listening to all that kinds of stuff. And of course my dad, you know, he was listening to hip hop. So all of that mid to late 90s, early 2000s hip hop I was listening to with him.
Right on.
And then of course you got, you know, the standards that are just in every black household. Your Stevie Wonders, your Jackson Fives, Prince again.
Yeah. Dude,
And
my
then
audience is
also
probably sick of hearing about Stevie Wonder because I've been on a big kick. I've been hyping him like the last three
yeah.
videos I made. Like, oh, I'm listening to Stevie Wonder too. Let's talk about how great Stevie is for a minute. You think he's a
No,
cheese ball? You're wrong. Listen closer.
I mean, Stevie is another one that just as a pure musician, he is just you know if you love Stevie, somebody who you probably have already gotten into them to a certain extent, um is D'Angelo.
You know, I don't know
D'Angelo,
D'Angelo for shit. And I was listening to you talking about him with FD Signifier, and I was like, man, like the way you were talking about him, I was like, well, on the one hand, I kind of want to check him out. On the other hand, I'm kind of put off. I'm really not sure if that's where I should be
no,
going.
you got I will I if you want just some pure like R&B that that's neo that quote unquote neo soul sound, which nobody, even myself, is really knows how to define, then the Brown Sugar album, the man, I think that was his first album, but Brown Sugar is the one to get into. But uh the one that he did that might have been 10 years ago now, Black Messiah, that is, if you talk about it has everything in there. Matter of fact, I will say this: if you like Prince, you will like D'Angelo. If you're into Prince, you'll be into D'Angelo. Um,
Dude, that's hard to say. See, oh man, you're making it tough because see, here's the thing, man. I kind of hate Prince, but I kind of hate him. You know what I mean?
I hate Prince. Prince is.
Well,
uh,
it's you know what you know what it is, man. I really liked Prince when I was like in my early teens, and then I got into like punk rock. I mean, I got into metal first. When I got into punk rock and got the attitude, then I was like, oh, fuck that shit. And I kind of never came back around and gave him another chance. And it's kind of just, it's really like him. It's not like what he's doing. Like, I'm on board with what he's doing. I don't necessarily love all his records, but
yeah.
But the other thing is, but see, that's where you say, like, if I like Prince, because it's like a double-edged sword. That could actually be awesome if he like isn't like, you know, if it keeps jack you off the playlist, I guess, you know. But the other thing is that generally speaking, I've had really good luck with records with titles like Black Messiah.
Yeah, it's Black Messiah. Black Messiah is my personal favorite of his, but if you ask anybody else, they might say Voodoo, which I could see.
Well, you said Brown Sugar first, so it's either that or Black Messiah. I'm not going to even bother with that other one unless I love these two.
Yeah, I personally I would say go with Black Messiah first, because that's the more experimental, more matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you exactly what track to go to. It's Charade. Don't bother with anything else, go straight to that track. And if you can get with that, then you might say, all right, yeah, I'm kind of feeling D'Angelo. I'm kind of, because that's basically his whole deal, is just, you know, mixing and matching, blending and bending and doing all that kind of stuff. And he is also very heavily influenced by Parliament.
Right,
And by Stevie Wonder and by Prince. Those are probably his three biggest influences. And you can hear it all in the records.
See, I mean, a big part of Stevie's the electronics, right? It's like, first of all, Stevie, like I think a Stevie Wonder record is like a hug.
It is. It is. I'm not even gonna lie, it is.
And then like you're like savoring that. And then like you start listening a little closer, and like all this weird shit's going on with the electronics and the talk box. And you're like, oh my God, this is like the most complex thing. And then it's all him playing it too.
Right.
You know, like Prince, I guess, too. But Stevie did it first.
Yeah, Stevie did it first, and not gonna lie, Stevie did it better. That's why, because I went through that phase of also, like, oh man, like I don't want to listen to this cornball music. I don't want to listen, especially when you grow up your whole life listening to it. But the older I got, especially the more the more I began to appreciate music, as I began to appreciate pure musicianship, right? And then once I began to develop an ear for certain things, and that's part of the reason why I love D'Angelo so much. like, oh, okay, you slipped that ninth chord into there like that. I like that walk up. I didn't even catch that the first time. I didn't even know that what I was listening to, but then you know, you just listening to it, and then all of a sudden, you know, you hear one of those, you hear a sneaky little gospel walk up in there, and you're like, oh, okay, let me listen to this again. So that's what brought me back around to Stevie, is once I really began to appreciate an artist's musicianship, get beyond the, oh, okay, you know, I like this hook, or I like this riff, or I like this beat. That's what really started to get me to appreciate him again.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, you know, it's funny, like looking for more Stevie stuff, sort of being on this kick. What I've been reaching for more than anything has been I don't want to say like the smooth jazz, but like, you know, the 70s, like the jazz funk, you know what I mean? Like not like the really corny ones, but like the like Joe Farrell. I've been really into, actually, his CTI records.
You know who is one of my, matter of fact, I will say one of my favorite albums, matter of fact, getting into that whole, you know, soul funk vibe. One of my favorite albums is the Superfly soundtrack.
Oh yeah, man.
By Curtis
God
Mayfield.
damn, yeah.
I play that just about every Saturday cleaning up. Curtis is that's enough. Going back to when I discover artists and I try to find out their influences, I got into Curtis Mayfield through Jimi Hendrix and
Oh, really?
found out that I forget where I had heard this or where I had read this. I don't know where it was, but how Hendrix would play his little R&B fills in the middle, sneak them in there or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I think it was some lesson I was looking at on YouTube or something, and that's when they started talking about Curtis Mayfield and Bobby Womack and saying how that was a big influence on him doing that. So I said, all right, let me check out Curtis. And it's crazy because Superfly was one of my dad's favorite movies when I was growing up. And I never bothered to actually pay attention to the soundtrack until after that. And then when I listened to the soundtrack, I said, okay, I understand why Curtis is a GOAT, because man, that thing is, again, when you talk about just pure musicianship, it's otherworldly. So yeah, that's I say that to say that's one of my favorite musicians, one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite albums. So
yeah. I didn't really grow up with that. I mean, my parents didn't really they liked music, but they weren't like into music. You know what I mean? They weren't like playing records around the house. So that just wasn't.
right.
So I had to go out and find it all myself. And because of that, I think it was like the third or fourth tape I ever bought. Like after I bought tapes, after buying records, it's probably too convoluted. But was I wanted the Herbie Hancock with Rocket on it, right?
Oh yeah.
And first of all, I remember going to the record store and I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. And I asked about it and they was like, oh, it's over here in the jazz section, And I'm like, 11 or 10 or whatever. And I'm like, the jazz section? What the jazz? Isn't that what grown-ups listen to or some shit like
right.
that? So anyway, I got this tape anyway. I fucking fell in love with it. I played the shit out of it. And it wasn't until about 10 years later when I got into Curtis Mayfield and had a couple of his records already because it's not on Superfly. But it wasn't until then that I realized that Future Shock was a Curtis Mayfield song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
I had to get there backwards.
It's wild that these artists just, another one that reminds me of how Herbie is just so, like his tentacles just can go anywhere and it just works. Another one who's like that is Robert Glasper.
I don't know him very well.
Robert Glasper, he's known primarily as I don't know how familiar you are with Kendrick Lamar.
Not very, man. I kind of suck with anything after
Okay. Well, I will say this is that
I'm working on it.
To Pimp a
Butterfly is great.
Yeah, so that album that was produced by Robert Glasper.
Okay. All right.
So
cool. That's probably why I know his name then.
That he produced that album. Well, a lot of the tracks on there he produced, but that whole kind of 70s funk kind of jazz feel to the album, that's Robert Glasper's doing. And he, matter of fact, did he? Yeah, he released the album, I think it was last year, called Black Radio 3. And he's another one that it's like, just the musicianship and just how, the word escapes me, but just how he's able to just, go from here to there and everywhere, and it just works. And there isn't a way to really kind of like pin him down, kind of like Herbie Hancock, but it just works whenever he does it. And so yeah, whenever people ask me, that's the first thing I go to is, what have you listened to Pimp a Butterfly? He did that. That's him. So I would say check out Robert Glasper as well. He's primarily a pianist, but he plays a bunch of different instruments, and he does a bunch of production in the music industry. So and he releases his own album from time to time.
Oh, that's cool.
Like that one. But mostly it's him working with other artists.
So when it comes to newer stuff, I was pretty Luddite. I'm a lot less bad than I was like, I
Mhm.
mean, 10 years ago, but like I've kind of been coming around a lot of the shit, like and doing sort of some remedial work since then. Like, I just really got into hip hop for real about
Uh-huh.
5 years ago. Like I already
Okay.
had my channel
So
and I was
you
like,
got a lot of catching up to do this.
yeah. And you know, one thing about being a little bit older is I can just go out and buy a bunch of records. It's not
Right,
like when you're a
right,
kid, you have to save your allowance and shit. I'm like, you know,
right,
something, I want this NWA album. I'm just going to fucking take it home and I'm
right.
going to leave it out where my parents can see it, even if I want to.
Yeah.
Or I was at the record
Yeah.
store and I was with my older kid, and he was like, I was flipping through the records. He just started laughing. I was like, "What's up?" He was like, "I'm going to come home from school one day this week, and you're going to be listening to Fuck the Police." I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
That's how that works.
And
But
it's like
yeah,
it's not like I didn't know the stuff. You know what I mean? It's like and
right.
I've listened to like Public Enemy and like appreciate it. You know, and I've
Mhm.
always really appreciated what the DJs do, but I didn't really like want to hear a lot of it until like
Right.
5 years ago. You know, and I kind of went ape shit. You know?
Yeah. You know what, a lot of it a lot of it is for one thing, especially the older that I've gotten, I've come to appreciate the artistry behind sampling. And
Yeah.
I think a
Right.
lot of people who don't really know how sampling works, they think it's just, oh well, you cut a piece from out of somebody else's song and you just play that over and over again. Like that's not music, that's not art. But when you it it's just wild the way that you know some of these folks are able to take just a bass line from one song and then transform it into something completely you know out of this world.
Oh,
and
totally.
so I think that has given me because there was a time where I didn't listen to hip hop at all, aside from Nas and Kendrick Lamar. I ain't listened to hip hop at all for like a good, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 years.
Hmm.
um but yeah, just have, especially today, sometimes a lot of stuff, you know I don't even really listen to the lyrics, to be honest.
Oh, I never listen to
A
lyrics.
lot of stuff right,
I don't give a shit.
right.
They're probably stupid, right?
A lot of it is, but that's the thing, is that the lyrics don't matter. It's
Right.
we call it turn up music. That's what it is. It's mindless turn up music. But that's okay.
Hell yeah, man.
That's okay. It's all right to listen to that. But
If the
like
lyrics are good,
Migos,
it's
for
gravy.
example.
Like
Hmm.
what, for
Yeah.
example?
Migos is an example,
Okay, yeah.
right? I ain't never listened to a Migos record where I understand a word of what's going on. I don't care though. It's all right because it's a vibe. It's a bop. It's turn up music. That's all it is. And that's all right. Now some stuff I will, you know, I will listen for the lyrical content, because something that I said in another video is that the thing about hip hop is that because you're not playing an instrument, because you're not singing, well most rappers don't sing, because you're
Mhm.
not doing anything but rapping, you know you're completely dependent upon um lyricism. um and so, especially uh if you ask me, and honestly any hip hop head, to be honest, they'll probably say that as just a pure lyricist, Nas is probably the greatest of all time, but hands down, bar none.
Wow.
Like uh uh So I guess this is suggestion time then.
Well, I like Nas, but you know, it's interesting because I didn't like his, well, I keep thinking of Death Grips because I just got into Death Grips like a month ago, and I fucking love that shit so much. But that's because that's like the old punk shit that I like.
Yeah,
Just like sort of with a different setting, you know what I mean? Like the track was a little bit. You know, the irony about me and hip hop in general is that like some of the things you were talking about, like the artistry of sampling, like when I was first like exposed to the idea of sampling for like the first 10 minutes, I was like, I sort of had the same reaction to everyone else. But I figured out pretty fast that it was cool, you know. In fact, I think getting into Negative Land early probably didn't hurt because that's all like tape shit, right? And I got into that then. So approaching hip hop, like I like the beat anyway, right? I mean, what's not to like, right? But like the way the music is constructed, I was on board with that too. And as far as the lyrics and the kind of not caring what they're saying, like I can dig just like what the sounds are. I look, so I'm deep enough in the metal that I like show off a lot of, I would buy anyway. A lot of records of like Poland and Argentina and shit. I don't know what the fuck they're saying in there anyway.
Right.
But they still might be good singers, you know what I mean? And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like there's so like if I'm looking at hip hop and saying, well, people have an issue with the lyrics and people have an issue with the sampling, none of those things are impediments for me.
Right.
As far as my outlook on music, you know, but still it wasn't until like 5 years ago until it just sort of came together for me. So I guess it's all just kind of arbitrary to some degree. It's not like I didn't know the bands. I just didn't listen to them, you know.
You know what's and a matter of fact, FD had put me onto this album because I couldn't stand this boy until this new album. I couldn't stand him. But that's the thing is that he put me onto it. Then I had to message him back and I said, I know you don't got me got me actually sitting here vibing to this boy. It's a rapper named Lil Yachty.
All right.
His album, what is it called? It's called Let's Start Here. And it is the first thing that I thought of when I heard it, I'm not even going to lie, the opening track is Bridge of Sighs.
Really?
And that's the first thing that came to my mind. I said, this sounds like Robert Townsend. Robert Trower. So I said, what am I listening? It is if you are into that psychedelic, you know, kind of King Crimson prog rock kind of sound. That's basically what it is. I said, all right, I can get with this. This is all right, cause and it's another thing. Can't understand the word he's saying. No clue. Don't matter. It's just icing on the cake of the production. But yeah, I would definitely say go check that out.
Oh, right on. All right, man. I made a note of that one too. All right, man. How are we doing for time? All right, so here's something I was going to ask you about. Can you think? Are there any two songs that come to mind that like are completely different but sound like the same song to you? And I'll tell you what I think of. Like the first or second one that comes to my head is "Aces High" by Iron Maiden is basically the same song as "Call Me" by Blondie.
Okay, let me. All right. So I see. Let me think. Two songs that are basically the same.
Just like two that sort of go together in your head, like for some arbitrary reason, you know?
All right, two songs that go together in my head, but
we're two records.
All right, this is going to be out there. Sign of the Times by Prince and Kill the Poor by Dead Kennedy.
No shit. I need to hear Sign of the Times again, man. Fuck.
because they both basically talking about the same thing. So it's pretty much the same themes going on in the song. So it's pretty much the same thing to me. Or you know what? Let me try another one. Let me try
I think it's fun to tell Prince fans, by the way, that my favorite album of his is Diamonds and Pearls.
I like Diamonds and Pearls.
I do too. It's actually kind of is my favorite, but people get pissed when I tell them that.
Yeah. I like Diamonds and Pearls. I don't know. It's people get mad at me when I say that my favorite Michael Jackson album is bad.
Right on, man.
I
I'll tell you what, I'll drink to it, right?
there you go. So because everybody is either off the wall or Thriller, but I don't know. Bad is.
I'm kind of a sucker for
my
Ben, I'll be honest.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for Smooth Criminal. That's why.
Right on.
That's why.
You know, that hit really isn't terrible either, you know, even with all the baggage.
Mhm.
Whatever, we don't have to go down that path.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good question. I gotta think about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I like to think of records that like have, you know, two records that are like spiritual sort of like brothers in my head are My Name is Albert Eiler and the first Cecil Taylor record, Jazz Advance, because both of them, they sound like they're doing like this really sort of new thing with their instrument, but their backup band like don't get it.
Yeah.
And like that creates this constraint that they're working within, and it just yields something that's just different than you hear on like real, like, I mean, forget about hard bop albums, but definitely like free jazz records, you know, it's just sort of this own like little thing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love records that have like brothers or sisters or whatever.
Yeah.
You just have to find them
I never
myself.
really thought of it like that. I'm gonna think about that some more.
Right on. All right, man. So last question. I'm kind of stealing this from a streamer that my kid watches. What's the biggest animal you think you could take in a fight? And I'm kind of weak, dude. Like, I'd hope I could take a raccoon, but I'll be honest, I'm not super sure. So
the biggest and win or just kind of survive for a little bit.
That's a good, let's say win.
Win.
Because like survive for a minute. I mean, you could survive. It'd take you, if a shark bites, you could take a minute before you bleed out. So let's say you have to win.
A dog. A big dog. That's about it.
I think a big dog would fuck me up, dude.
I mean, he would get some licks in, but I would get him. I would get the dog,
Right,
and that's about it. Anything bigger than that, I'm gonna die. Arrange my funeral. You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about saying a raccoon, but not a raccoon, a kangaroo. But then, I've seen videos. I've seen kangaroos fight, and now I can't beat a kangaroo. No, there's no way. No way. I said, all right, maybe I can get a couple good hits in, but no, kangaroo will kill me.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, everyone. Check out Lil Bill. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight a squirrel. Someone's saying a squirrel would kick my ass. Maybe not. I could probably take a squirrel, but I'd rather not, you know. Thanks for watching, everyone.
The squirrel.
Check out Lil Bill. It's an awesome channel. And thanks everyone for being here. And I'll end the broadcast so we can stay on for a sec.